All right. So hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming to our webinar today. We're really excited to show you what we've been working on at Divergence, which is a new software platform to make distance neurofeedback a lot easier. So Jeff, I'll get you to go to the next slide.
Of course. Maybe.
All right. So we're just going to give a little background here just to gently introduce everyone and make sure that we're covering all the bases. And I'm happy to answer questions as we go along too. So you can put those in the chat section. So we know that millions are struggling with mental health right now, and it's something that's continuing to grow at an alarming rate. And current therapies tend to be a little bit more narrative based. Assessments are done through checkboxes, conversation, but one thing that is missing is often this individual physiology of the patient. You know, when you really think about it, you go to your doctors and they'll take blood work and then they'll determine that, oh, you've been feeling tired or having trouble because you don't have enough vitamin B. So then they prescribe based on that. But in the neurofeedback paradigm and using qualitative EEG, that is something that we do as well. And so we're trying to make this easier and more accessible to support narrative-based assessments. Well, with COVID, we also noticed that we're all feeling pretty disconnected, and the increased use on technology has also caused an increase in specific types of focus that are known to increase our chances of feeling burnt out or anxious. So we're also hoping that this platform, and as we move forward, we'll offer more opportunities for people to work together collaboratively and emotionally, but from a distance. This allows both the patient and the provider to use these tools and increase that therapeutic relationship through relational technology. So one way that I use this is that, for example, if I was having an EEG on someone's head, there's a certain frequency that lets me know that they're kind of tense. And sometimes when we're kind of tense, we don't know that we're tense. Like someone else will tell you that you're tense, but you may deny that because you've gotten so used to the state that you're in. But if the technology is there mediating that, we can say, actually, it is showing that you're kind of tense. What happens if you do some breathing and we notice that feeling coming down and you're getting a reflection that you're becoming more relaxed? It's a little easier then to drop your guard, shift states, and realize that there actually is a whole variety of states that you could be entering into at any given time that could help you feel more grounded and relaxed. And it also helps the clinician see that you're starting to feel that way. So both clinician and client can see each other more easily. Next slide. So we're trying to make this one of the friendliest ways to help understand and improve your brain health. So our mission is to enhance mental health and cognitive performance for individuals through affordable and friendly technology for both the patients and the care providers. Next slide. So what do we do at Divergence? We are offering a cloud-based platform that collects patient measurement, engages patients in advancing their mental health, and allows care providers to guide and track patient progress. So one way to say this is that we are offering technology that helps you map your inner state by grounding it in EEG feedback and biometrics that make it really easy for you to understand where you are on that inner state. You know, are you on a side road? Are you going 150? Are you stuck in traffic? What's going on? So this platform is going to integrate wireless EEG devices. We are hardware agnostic, so we're hoping to eventually get a wide range of hardware that clinicians and clients can choose from so that they can choose something that best suits their need. And then I think Holly's asking a question down there. We're going to partner with clinics and institutions to fine-tune and deploy software for specific use cases and to enhance the overall patient experience. And we also offer continuous research and development to improve predictive modeling of neurohealth. So there's a lot that we're doing at Divergence, and we're trying to offer really well-rounded platform with a strong research emphasis to make sure that we're always hearing from the clients, hearing from the patients, and then integrating that into the studies and research that we're doing so that we can ensure that we are kind of growing with the community and listening to the community to best support what is being asked for. Next slide. So what do we have? We have the neurofeedback system. So it's mobile. We're going to be very soon offering some qualitative EEG assessment as well that will help clinicians validate these current assessment tools that we use with biometrics. So we can validate that, yeah, you know, it seems that the narrative-based assessment says that you have ADHD, and we're also seeing that there seems to be this underlying functional connectivity pattern that we also see is aligned with ADHD from like an EEG perspective. As we move forward, this will, especially with machine learning and AI, this will personalize the training programs to enhance neural performance, to allow clients and clinicians to help them achieve a more agile brain through learning how to shift gears and relate to their brain waves and states of attention through feedback the technology offers. And then neurohealth assessment. So not only is it an EEG platform, but you can also enter in any sort of assessment that you want the client to do on a regular basis. So one of the biggest challenges that most clinicians find they have is you send someone home with homework, they come back a week later, maybe they did it twice. How did you feel this week? I'm not really sure, I don't know. So you can put any sort of assessment you would like the client to be filling out on a regular basis into this mobile app, and the mobile app will push that towards the client to really track that specific goal that you're working on with them. And then when they come back in, it will show how did the week go, what were their responses, and then you can actually overlay that and interface it with actual neurological or neurophysiological data that we get from the EEG as well. So it's self-report and biometric at the same time. But that will eventually go into the AI algorithms to give you novel insights on what's going on. And we also make sure that this is a secure HIPAA compliant platform to store all data. Next slide, please, Jeff. So this is kind of a metaphor that we came up with to try to frame this for everyone. I'm a fan of metaphors. I use many. I'll try to stick with one for this webinar. So our platform is like the kitchen. Everyone enters into the kitchen, they're hungry, we want to cook a meal. We are working on biomarkers, so that's part of our research platform. So currently we are working with Entheon Biomedical, looking at specific biomarkers related to specific psychedelic treatments. As we come up with those biomarkers, they're kind of like the special sauce that you can use in the kitchen. So the more of those we get, and the more things you have to cook with. Then the therapists are the cooks and the headsets are the utensils. So it depends what it is you're cooking, which utensils you're going to use and which sauces you're going to use. Then the chefs are like teachers and lineages. And something that's very important to me, and I think important to Jeff, is that the joke is we're kind of classically trained. We have been working with this long lineage of neurofeedback providers and EEG, qualitative EEG folks like Jay Gunkelman, who've been around since the 70s, and Joe Kamiya that started back in the 50s. And some of the modern brain-computer interfaces are relying on current research in neuroscience, which is really important, and so are we, but we don't want to forget that there is a lineage of teachers and practices and neurofeedback protocols that we can rely on. So let's not reinvent the wheel, let's all work together to integrate these things together. And then as we work together and we fill the kitchen with utensils and different sauces, we're going to have more recipes, which are more applications and protocols that we can offer to the community. Next slide. And we're going to do a demo. Here we are. So Jeff, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, and I guess I need to stop sharing so you can share your screen, yeah?
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to demo today is basically how do you go about creating a protocol? So for neurofeedback practitioners, this is going to be really important. And then those who are going to work more from a coaching methodology where you have pre-installed programs, it would be a little bit different, but along the same lines. So I'm already in the Divergence platform here, and I have a couple already set up that I've deployed to myself and a friend. But if I wanted to create a new one, I would click on Create Program. And I'm going to work on a quiet mind today. And I am sending that to Jeff. So Alpha 1. So we get to this screen, and then we want to create a neuro milestone. And all of this is just helpful for the Divergence platform to track what users are entering and offer a lot of diversity to our users. And then we want to create the session. So I'm going to go ahead and put a new one in. And you have the option here whether you want to have a new protocol or you actually want to have a new session assessment. For this one, I'm just going to focus on the protocol, but in the future, you could click on session assessment. And I could say to Jeff, you know, how are you feeling today? There would be a sliding scale he could choose from, a text box he could enter into, or I could make it like a Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you feeling? So then you could deploy the assessment to them before, then they do the meditation, and then they could get the assessment after. And that just improves the richness of the tracking that we offer to clients. So this one, we're doing quiet mind. Moving ahead and going directly to the neurofeedback. The protocol category is the NeuroMeditation Institute. One up. I'm going to make it, I don't know how long you made the baseline, Jeff.
Yeah, 1 minute's probably good for
1 minute's good for now for a demo. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to create the event, and we're just going to focus on the back of the head. So generally speaking, we want the back of our head to be going slower than the front of our head. And if the opposite were true, sometimes you get things like depression. And we said we were going to do alpha and just alpha 1. Alpha is this kind of middle ground in neurofeedback where it's kind of the meeting place or the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious mind. You want 65%?
Oh, yeah, you could leave it at 50 since we're going to try and make it this easy. You want me to be successful for the demo.
I like challenging you, Jeff. All right. So then I'm just going to save the protocol. I'm rewarding that slowness at the back of the head. And then I'm going to go back to my neurofeedback programs. And now I have a new one. So view, I'm going to activate it. Activate the program, and now I can stop sharing, and I'll let Jeff share because that will send it to his cell phone where now he can put the headset on his head, go through the screen, and do the meditation.
Hang on 1 second. It's my phone's not letting me. I wanted to share my phone, and it's saying I'm not special enough to share my. That's not exactly what it said, but that's kind of what it said. Let me see if I can make myself more special.
Okay.
I'll make myself the host. That's about as special as you can get.
I think so.
Okay. All right, so Heather just sent me, there's a message from Ray, my office manager. Thanks, Ray. Heather just sent me a protocol. And so if I go to the Dive app on my phone, if I can find it, there it is, and open that up, and you'll see down at the bottom right here, continue your session, quiet mind. So here's the session, the protocol that Heather deployed to me in this instance. So now I can run it. So she's the therapist, I'm the client. She created it, she sent it to me, said, hey, you need to quiet your mind, do this. So great. So I'm just going to follow the instructions. Place the, it says Notion, but it's actually the crown. So here's the device that we're using in this instance. This is the neurofeedback device that we're using right now that's paired with the Divergence platform. In the future, there'll be other hardware options, but right now we're using the crown. It's an 8-channel Bluetooth wireless device, and it just goes on just like this, kind of like ram's horns. And just gonna kind of wiggle it around a little bit, get myself a nice little connection, get the little combs through my hair. All right. It says that my device is online. Now, I find that it's often a little bit fussy with me, the signals. And actually, it's a little bit on the conservative side, because if you kind of look it up on the Neurosity site, you can see that the signals are actually quite good. So rather than fuss with this right now, we'll just kind of go ahead for demonstration purposes. And there's the protocol. So it says 11 minutes because Heather set it up for a 1-minute baseline followed by a 10-minute protocol. So in this case, I don't know if you'll be able to hear my audio very well or not. It's always a little weird when I do it on my phone. In case you can't hear it, let me tell you what I'm hearing. I'll do my best to kind of share the audio here, but we'll see what happens. So the audio in this case is rain. And so you can kind of see the rain in the background on the screen there. And so the loudness of the rain, the volume of the rain is the feedback. So as my alpha 1 increases above the threshold, in this case, the rain will be louder. That's the feedback, sort of signaling to me that I'm in the right state. And then if my mind wanders, I get distracted, I start thinking about you guys, or I'm thinking about Heather, or I'm thinking about this webinar, then the volume will go down. So again, hopefully you'll be able to hear this, but let's start it and we'll just do like, we don't want to spend the whole webinar doing this, but I'll do just a little, kind of get it going, and Heather can chat with you while I'm kind of getting this moving here.
Great. So we always want people to take a baseline that you're not meditating in. This is the key. So just your general mind wandering, hanging out in your head baseline for the first minute. And then when the bell goes off, you'll hear that the music or the sound, whatever it is that you're giving feedback with, will increase in volume when you're achieving the state. And this is important because our nervous system orients towards things, right? Things catch our attention. So we always want the reward paradigm to be something that catches your attention. And even if you don't cognitively understand, your nervous system understands in time, because the brain looks for patterns, says, does this matter to me? And once it figures out it does, it wants to achieve it more. Hi, Jay. Alpha training is eyes closed, so auditory is a good match. Yes, also that. So there are some visual training. Now we don't quite hear Jeff's feedback. He's trying. But generally what happens is it gets louder when he's in that quiet mind state, which is this rich alpha 1 frequency. And then it gets less loud as he leaves that state. And this is really kind of where neurofeedback started. This discrimination of this alpha frequency and this recognition with Joe Camilla that you could even do this. And then from here, we've built out a variety of protocols at the NeuroMeditation Institute. And yes, so eventually we will have other forms of feedback. We do have a screen right now where the screen dims and brightens. And eventually you'll be able to put that over your own YouTube videos or Netflix if you're watching a show. Haptic feedback, where there's a little bit of vibration that rewards you, but those tend to be the general feedback paradigms that are offered at this time. So you can see Jeff has completed his meditation. He got 46% in quiet, mostly because I'm talking while he's meditating.
No, that's about normal.
Yeah, that's normal for you.
Uh, I just wanted to, of course, I was trying to listen to you while I was meditating. That's tricky. Um, but I would also add that, even though there are some additional things coming down the road right now, we do have there's a fire visual feedback that's available, where the fire increases and decreases in size and intensity. The screen gets brighter or dimmer. The crackling of the flames get louder or quiet. So we do have a couple of visual options already. There's just going to be more.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to, we can go back to the slide deck. You're welcome. So really what we were showing you here today is like how easy it is to deploy this to a client and how easy it is for a client to use. These are dry sensors. You don't have to stick glue and paste on somebody's head. They can do it from a distance, and probably within a week or two, the whole back end is going to open up where you'll actually be able to see the EEG live on the platform and live threshold. So my client can be at home and I can be interacting with them from a distance. And that's a really nice feature, particularly for the neuromeditation options that we're going to have available on the Divergence platform, because it's a relationship. It's helpful to be able to interact and give feedback. Like when I'm working with someone, say I was working with Jeff and I was thresholding, I'd watch him get into that alpha state and come out, and get in and come out. And then I might pause and just say, what are you noticing between those two? Because what we're teaching is discrimination of states. So as you have that conversation, it gets easier for that person to understand that and then go deeper in each time that they train.
I think I accidentally made Ray the host. Ray, can you make me the host? Her name is NeuroMeditation Institute, and so
there you go.
whoops, I thought that was me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Let's go up a little bit because we were here.
Yeah, here. Demo. All right, I'll let you take some of this, Jeff.
Okay, so so kind of what we wanted to do was to give you kind of, Heather gave you a broad overview of kind of what the platform is about. You got to see for a second, kind of what it looks like to create a protocol on the web-based side, the therapist side, and then also kind of what it looks like from the app side, from the client side. So we wanted to kind of break that down a little bit to explore just a little bit more what that looks like, what the capabilities are, and what some of the different options will be and are going to be. So the first thing that we've got here is looking at it from the coach's side. So really there's two different ways that people can access this software in this platform. One is as a coach and one is as a therapist. And really the distinction that we're making there is that the therapist is somebody who's trained in neurofeedback, right? And a coach is somebody who presumably is not. So that's the language we're using, just so that that's sort of obvious, or so that that's clear what we're kind of saying here. So for the coaches, if they want to access this, they would have access to any of the predefined treatment protocols. So for example, we'll be putting all of the neuromeditation protocols into the platform. They'll already be done. You don't have to do anything. You won't have to do that stuff that Heather just did. They're already defined for you. They're already set up. So that if you wanted to send, let's say, a quiet mind protocol to a client, you could do that, but you wouldn't have to figure out how to create it. It would just be there. You would say, send the quiet mind to my client, right? So all of the neuromeditation protocols will be predefined so that you can just assign them. You don't have to know anything about neurofeedback. If you know that quiet mind is what you want, or you want focus, or you want open heart, that's all you kind of need to know. And kind of as Heather was saying earlier, as we get going, there'll be other predefined treatment protocols as well, not just neuromeditation stuff, but other things as well. So coaches would have access to all of that. They would also have access to any of the predefined standard questionnaires. So we'll have things built in like the GAD-7, the PHQ-9, the neuromeditation styles inventory. So inventories that are out there in the world that you might already be using with people to address and examine changes in symptoms. So the GAD-7 is a generalized anxiety questionnaire. It's very common. It's used in a lot of research. PHQ-9 is a depression questionnaire. So, you could have other questionnaires that are predefined as well, like out in the world. Like one that I like a lot is the coping self-efficacy scale. If you want to see if people are improving in their ability or their perceived ability to manage things in their life, right? Well, you could use the questionnaire that's already built in here, assign it to your client, and see where they're at various points. And then, of course, as Heather was kind of talking about, and if we have time, maybe we can go back there, I don't know, but you can create your own questionnaires. And so, they can be just very simple, kind of like one question kinds of things. Rate your level of stress today, 1 to 10, right? You could do that. It could be very simple. Or if you wanted to make more elaborate questionnaires, you could do that as well. In fact, you could do your intake or parts of your intake through this platform. And so the idea would be that you could create your own template for what you want to use, save that template, and then maybe you want to use it with all your clients, right? So you kind of have that capacity, that ability. And then having this detailed dashboard where you can access all of that data. So you push out a questionnaire to your client, they fill it out on their phone, they finish it, and then you instantly have that data available on your web portal. So you can open the web portal, you can see their responses and track them over time. Not only that, but you can also track their EEG responses over time as well. So you can take a look at, maybe you're interested in, maybe it's relevant how much alpha they're producing in the parietal lobes. Maybe you care about that. Well, you could track that. You could see over time if that was changing. So some of the benefits of this, obviously, saving time, by deploying protocols and assessment tools that are already out there. So it's just making it a much more user-friendly platform to be able to communicate with your clients in a very easy way and where all the data can be in one spot. So you don't have 5 different things. Hey, I'm going to send you a link to a Google form, fill that out. And then you've got your Google form data and you got to figure out what to do with it. And you got your EEG data over here, or maybe you don't, right? So being able to have all of that information in one place, super helpful. Obviously automating the client and intake process, can be super valuable, right? Again, at the beginning, it might take you a minute, right? To get everything exactly where you want it. But once you've identified your stuff, it's there, you have access to it, you can send it out to everybody. And then of course, quickly analyzing your treatment results. So again, some of this is going to be things that, you'll have the data that you can track over time, but with the neuromeditation protocols, there will be some built-in statistics that you'll have access to as well. So like you saw at the end of my session, it had a percent. I forgot what I did, 40, what I get, 45% or something.
49, don't sell yourself short.
49%. Yeah, I was rocking it. So that's not rocking it. One of the people on the call right now just bragged that he got an 80% the other day or so, and maybe it was even higher. So 49%, that's adequate, right? But anyway, but what that's telling you is that was the percent of time that I was meeting the criteria, meaning I was above the threshold with my alpha. So you can get, numbers like that really quickly. And actually the client would actually have access to some of those statistics as well. So they could also see, how did I do, right? People want to know how they did, how they performed. There'll be some other metrics available as well, as we move forward. You would take the next slide, Heather?
All right, so this is just kind of what you guys already saw here. This is the platform. And what it's showing here is that there's these added questionnaires to generic intake. It's something I didn't go through, but it's showing you a little bit of a snapshot of what you can do. So there's a mock-up. It's like, what's their orientation at birth? Have you had therapy before? Please, what made you decide to seek out therapy in the first place? And then they can have a short answer. They can have the sliding scale, as we mentioned, or a Likert scale. And in time, again, we're always looking for feedback from the community. So if the community starts asking for new things, we're happy to add it onto the platform. And then that's the mobile app there on the right. This would be mine. See, I got 89%.
Bragging. Maybe this is an okay time. There was a couple of questions in the chat, and if they got answered, just let me know, because I was probably otherwise preoccupied. So somebody was asking about when the some of those predefined protocols will be available.
So I think that, I don't know if we want to go ahead to some of the neuromeditation slides and talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're currently, soon is the answer. The NeuroMeditation Institute package should be available soon. We could go ahead to that slide and look at the package if you like. So first of all, actually, we should look at this. So here's the pricing. If you are a coach, and coaches can be clinicians who've working with the neuromeditations, but aren't necessarily neurofeedback therapists and aren't seeking to have the full back end of the neurofeedback suite. The starter pack for up to 5 active clients is $80 US a month. The Pro is up to 15 active clients. It's $210 a month. Or the Clinic, where you have up to 30 active users, would be $320 a month. Next slide. And so if we're shifting from the coaches over to the therapists now, therapists are licensed clinicians who are also licensed in neurofeedback. So having that license is what helps you open up that back end or that formal training. You get everything that the coaches get, but now you can design your custom neurofeedback treatment protocols. You can assign those to the client. You also have that remote treatment management control that I was speaking of. So my client could be at home with their headset on, and I could be thresholding and moving around and interacting with them as if they were in the office with me. And again, you get everything that the coaches get, which really helps you reduce the time to design and employ your protocols, which is really nice. And as the clinicians start to build in specific protocols, we will have a database that you can choose from. So you kind of saw when I was originally signing Jeff up, there was already some protocols there that I could have just clicked add and just deployed to him right away. So as you make protocols, those protocols stay in the back end. And then there will be some that we can share with all users if we determine that those are standard protocols. And then again, all this flexibility, this ability to track. I know part of this, design came from the needs that Jeff and I have as clinicians. And Jeff was saying about using Google Sheets and everything else. This is something that I struggle with because I'm always, giving Google Sheets or tracking sheets or trying to get them to do some app on their phone, and everything just is separate, and that makes more work for me as a clinician. So we're trying to streamline this and put it all in one place so that it's, takes away from the fumbling that comes from using all these different methodologies and makes more space for the treatment itself. And also the treatment from home comfort, when clients with neurofeedback, I think we should consider it too, that you need to have more regular training, and it's really cost prohibitive for a lot of my clients to see me 3 times a week. But if I had something that I could deploy to them and they could be training on their own without me, or I could come in for shorter sessions and just threshold and figure it out, the cost goes down, but the efficacy goes up. And then when they show up in session for it with me, they've done their homework. It's kind of been engaging and easy for them to do. And then we can go into deeper sessions together. Next slide.
Can I add one thing real quick?
Of course.
So, and I think it gets to a couple of the comments that were made earlier about feedback. And I think you addressed some of those that, we're going to have additional feedback options soon. But also, if you're on the therapist side of the platform, when you're going in there, so you might remember that little head chart that Heather was using, right? And it was kind of mapping out the electrodes for the crown. Now, if you're using a different piece of hardware, you'd have a different map, right? You'd have a different electrode placements. And so when you're creating a protocol like that, you can choose whichever combination of electrodes you want for multiple events, right? So in this case, we only had one event. There were the 2 parietal electrodes that were basically combined for one event. We were just looking at alpha 1 at those 2 electrodes. But you could, if you wanted to, you could do that. And then you could create a second event that was maybe looking at something in the frontal electrodes. And so then from a design perspective, you can have as many events as you want, combining different electrode sites to do different things. And then you will also have the ability to either decide, do you want all of those events linked together for one type of feedback? You have to meet all of the criteria for all of the events to get feedback, or do you want them each to have separate feedback? So if you have 3 events, there's 3 separate sounds or tones or whatever that are connected to that. So you could have a river flowing down, a river flowing sound, and you could have, wind chimes or birds, right? Or whatever. You could have multiple things connected to the different events. So there's a lot of, Heather was talking about the flexibility. So that's one piece where there's going to be quite a bit of flexibility from the therapist side of things.
And it creates soundscapes that, again, are engaging and very orienting for the client. So if a client has a couple different things you need to work on at once, we try to make it fun and engaging for them to stay on task and to stay with the therapeutic intervention. And because you have all this flexibility, you can also keep it kind of novel, because sometimes it's the need for novelty to keep people attentive that can really lead to more engagement and positive outcomes in the long term.
So somebody was just asking if this is being used. I'll reframe it. Like, could this be used for the treatment of trauma or PTSD?
Yes, 100%. Primarily that's how I got into neurofeedback, was specifically for dissociative disorders. And my master's research was designing a specific neurofeedback protocol that could help with that. And it has proven to be extremely helpful. And why this is so helpful is because when somebody has trauma, particularly trauma that's pushed them to a state of dissociation, they've essentially disconnected from their felt sense, because the experience was so overwhelming that if they stayed connected with that, it's just too much. And so the nervous system kind of has a kill switch that flips functional connectivity in such a way that it kind of separates us from our body. So neurofeedback is a really wonderful way of working with folks that cognitively are not engaged, bringing them back into their felt sense in a way that's, I call it emotional cardio. It's just a gentle way of turning the system back on. And then eventually their frontal lobe and their cognitive function, they come out of dissociation, they come back into that. And then some of the more cognitive interventions, which are important, begin to work. And Bessel van der Kolk, who is a trauma specialist, he really advocates for neurofeedback, because he says sometimes cognitive therapy for people who are in dissociative states is like walking therapy for someone who doesn't have legs. So you have to make sure that that person has the parts activated in order to engage in that specific form of therapy. So this is addressing what's often missing or individuals with trauma are struggling with through this technology, so that traditional models can then layer on top of that.
Yeah, and just to tag on to that, kind of in a broader sense, really, if you're at the therapist side of the platform, you can do anything. You can do anything you could do with other types of neurofeedback, as long as the electrode placement is in the right spot, as long as the electrodes are in the spot that you want.
Right, utensil for the recipe.
Right. You can make it do so, in this case, if you wanted to do kind of, some of the PTSD stuff like Ruth Lanius's work, alpha down, you can do that. Yep. You could do that very easily, right? The electrodes are in the right spot, are close enough, and, you just make the protocol behave that way. So, you can really make it do, anything that the 8 electrode in their placements will allow you to do.
Yep. Okay, next slide.
All right.
You can take this one.
Oh, we've kind of covered a lot of this, actually.
I know.
I forgot that this was the next slide. I should have been over here, right? So here you can see the crown electrode placements, the Neurosity crown. And like I said earlier, we will be working with other headsets, right? And the other headsets are likely to have placements in other places. So depending on which, when you sign on as a user, you will identify which headset you are using, and then you'll get a map that is specific to that, so that you can choose what you want, right? And so we've kind of covered most of this. Here's that little picture of the little flames. So that's one of the visual feedbacks that we have right now, using it with like a focused attention meditation, an eyes open focused attention. It actually works really well for that. So as you stay engaged with the fire and you're not distracted by other things, the flames get bigger and louder. It actually works really well.
Yeah, which is a traditional type of focus practice, is to watch a candle flame. But just this candle flame actually interacts with you and gives you feedback while you're staring at it.
It smiles at you and holds your hand.
Yeah, that's what neurofeedback does. I think of Ram Dass's quote that we're all just walking each other home. And I feel like neurofeedback really allows us to walk each other home in a way that we're getting that feedback to make sure they're both walking side by side. So the clinician and the client can stay in states together and feel the technology mediating that relationship, which my experience has been that, the question about trauma has been very soothing, because one of the things we're seeking in therapy is to be seen. And if you're so shut down to a point where you can't even see yourself, you're not always receptive to the therapist seeing you either. But the technology can mediate that and really help both clinician and client feel validated in their assessment of one another. Next slide.
Let's see what's next. The slides keep surprising me.
Yeah. The platform for therapists.
Yeah. So this is, so Heather, we had a slide like this a few back that was for coaches, right? So the different pricing structures for coaches. And so what you'll notice is that for the therapist, it's a little bit more, which makes sense because you're getting a little bit more. You've got that ability to design the protocols rather than using sort of the pre-identified protocols. So you can see again what it is right here: $100 a month for up to 5 clients or 5 users, and then $260 for up to 15, and $400 a month for up to 30. And so obviously, if you do the math, the price per client or per user goes down fairly significantly with the higher packages. Pretty standard approach there. And so this was kind of the other part, right? So the basic idea, and I think this is kind of what Heather was talking about before, maybe. We've largely been talking about kind of the Divergence software platform and kind of the capabilities, what it offers. And what we will be doing is adding additional packages or things like that are sort of optional, right? You don't have to use them, you don't have to have them, but if you want them, you can pay a little bit more and get a little bit more. So for instance, at the moment, in order to really be able to use the full capability of the Divergence platform, you kind of need a crown. So that would be sort of an add-on. You can certainly use the platform, for the assessments and everything else. You don't have to have an EEG headset, but if you want to take full advantage of it, you would need one, right? So that you could think of that as an add-on. And as I've kind of mentioned, there will be other headsets available in the near future. Those could be an add-on. And, there's also some discussions at options for leasing headsets. We'll know more about that soon, kind of what that's going to look like, but that may be a possibility. So for you or your client, if $900 out of the gate seems a little high, you may have other choices.
But for a neurofeedback platform, currently the next cheapest thing that you can get that allows you this functionality of working with your client from a distance, in which case you're only going to use Zoom and a couple other things, is around $2,000. So, and then the clients are still having to put glue and paste on their head and know where all the sensor placements are. And they're still having to have a dashboard on a computer. It's not a phone where they can just move around with. And what's really cool about these different headsets is you're not just stuck to using the Neurosity with our platform. Neurosity comes with the platform too. So you can also use Neurocity's platform, which also has its own, it's kind of made for productivity and focus. And so wearing it while you're doing some work and giving you measurements of what you're getting from that. So as the different devices come on, you technically get two platforms as you work with this. And then if you are someone who's really interested in trying this, but you're not a coach or a clinician, you can also reach out to the NeuroMeditation Institute and work with Jeff or I or some of our individuals who are licensed with the Institute to start trying this on your own as well.
Yeah, good point. Right. You could be a client and try it from that side of things. So we kind of mentioned some of the neuromeditation protocols. And so kind of what's going to happen is the basic protocol, the one that we just demonstrated, sort of demonstrated, that's just going to be included in the platform. Like everybody gets that. You get quiet mind, you get quiet mind, you get quiet mind. Everybody gets quiet mind, at least the basic protocol. But then as the rest of the protocols become available on the site, so there'll be mindfulness, open heart. I'm forgetting my protocols. What I say, mindfulness,
quiet mind, mindfulness,
open heart, focus.
Right.
And then
eventually some deep states.
There'll be some deep states eventually, and there will also be some advanced quiet mind protocols. Yes. So the one that comes with the set is kind of the basic, but there's some advanced things that Heather and I have kind of figured out over time. And so that's part of the neuromeditation suite. And so that will be one of those add-ons, right? Like, so if you are already have a subscription and you wanted to add on the neuromeditation suite, you would pay a little bit more, and then you would have access to all of those protocols that are already built out and are automated. And then you could send those out to your clients as well. What am I missing here, Heather?
I think that's it. I'm not certain. There's a question from Holly about discounts for coaches and therapists, but I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if we have an answer to that, but we'll get one if there is an answer.
Are Jeff and Alex with us?
Yeah, Alex is here. No, there's no discounts at this point.
Okay.
Next slide.
Yeah, and so for those of you that are interested in kind of learning more about the neuromeditation or maybe becoming a neuromeditation coach, right? We do have workshops coming up periodically. Unfortunately, we just had to cancel one that was going to be our first live EEG workshop in a year and a half. And yeah, you know how that goes, right?
COVID.
So that just got canceled. The next one that's scheduled is actually through IFN, which is a German neurofeedback company. And I've worked with them for the last several years offering these workshops. So this will be a virtual workshop, and you can see the dates there, but it's arranged through IFN, so you'd have to register through them. You can certainly contact me or check our website if you want information. We'll be looking at, Heather and I are looking at creating specific workshops, neuromeditation workshops, specifically for Divergence and the headsets that we can use with Divergence. Those aren't set up yet, but stay tuned because I think we will be offering some of those as early as the next couple of months.
Yeah, and Jeff, you also have if you go to the NeuroMeditation Institute too, there's an online course you can take. So if you're really interested in just learning the neuromeditation basics, which personally I recommend before you even get into the EEG, so that you have a foundation in what are brain waves and how do they work and what do the different neuromeditations do. There's an online training that you can get, and it's just videos that Jeff made, and you can check them and watch them whenever you like and reference them as often as possible. And on occasion through COVID, we've been doing where if someone purchases that, we offer some mentoring on the side. So there's a variety of ways that you can learn, and we're going to try to make this as accessible and easy as possible as we go forward.
Thanks for the plug, Heather.
Welcome.
It's always better when somebody else plugs you than plug in yourself. So,
Next slide. And just the final thing we want to let folks know is I think most people are aware of the psychedelic renaissance that's happening. It's in the media, left, right, and center these days. A lot of movement in the field, and the APT, augmented psychotherapy training, is occurring through the Mind Foundation. And this foundation is located in Berlin, but the training is done online. So if anyone here is a licensed clinician and you have interest in working with psychedelic therapies, this is the training you can consider. And why we're bringing it up is because it's the first training that's going to integrate the neuromeditation theory and likely the headsets into the overall model of psychedelic therapy. So we are starting to see how we could use neurofeedback as a preparation and integration tool around psychedelics. And on top of that, the Divergence platform, when we talked a little bit earlier about the special sauce, is invested in also supporting psychedelic therapies during the psychedelic session as well. So we're hoping that that is going to be a wing of the NeuroMeditation Institute that we're going to build out as these therapies become legal, and we're trying to get more clinicians familiar with how to work with these states. The APT program also will teach you foundations in breathwork, foundations in how to use light as a means of altering states. So it's a variety of ways to enter into altered states to support people when they actually step into a psychedelic state. So you can just check the website. I think there's still a few spots. It's about a 2-year program. There's a few group trips that happen in Berlin, but otherwise it's online.
I'll be there.
Yeah, Jeff is attending. I'll be teaching. I'm teaching the neuromeditation. Jeff is attending. They're going to run it.
How'd that work
out? I know. I'm growing up, Jeff. So I think that is, our webinar for today. Jeff and our plan is to actually do these monthly to keep everybody updated on what's going on. And as we really build out the back end and Divergence grows, we'd like to grow with you, and we'd like to work together in neurohealth. So is there any other questions or comments that people have? We've got a few minutes left. Do we have a way on the NMI website for people to find coaches and therapists? Yeah, so you can go on the neuromeditation website, and any of the providers, you can click on their link and you can send them an email. I actually tend to get most of my contact through the neuromeditation website.
And we will probably be kind of updating that whole system just to make it a little more user friendly. We've been growing, and so how that goes. As we grow, we have to kind of adapt. And so, try to make it a little bit easier for people to identify who are coaches associated with NeuroMeditation Institute that have specific training. In this case, like, with Divergence and, with this platform, so that it'd just be easy to find somebody who really knows what it is you're looking for.
And Alex, do you have an answer for the question about the GDPR compliance in the EU?
We're working towards getting GDPR compliance. At this point, I think we have a solid foundation in terms of our security and privacy policies and data governance policies. I think GDPR requires a compliance partner. If memory recalls, we haven't gone through that quite yet, but that's something on our radar to do.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts? I mean, again, you can always reach us through the NeuroMeditation Institute, Jeff, Heather, or Alex at divergenceneuro.com as well.
I think there's another question about how soon will you be taking signups from Holly? Yeah, so we're working on it actively. I think we'll be looking at kind of a sign up for the NMI package. Of course, you can sign up today as a therapist, but we're working on the NMI content package specifically for release within the next couple of months. I don't think it'd be longer than that.
Great. Great. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. Keep your eye out on our website and our social media, because we're going to keep this going probably monthly. And I think Jeff and I sometime in October will be launching an initial workshop around the NMI divergence interface.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.